Myers. So without further ado, as always, let me remind you all the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show, have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And as always, you can find us on Facebook as well. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you are on it or once you find it, so you can follow us, interact with us, and all that good stuff. All right, so a couple of things. Now, over the weekend, I got a lot of questions about the TV awards. Tonight was supposed to be the night that we announced the nominations and start the process for the live vote of the awards, that whole deal, right? Well, unfortunately, I was going to make this announcement on social media this afternoon, but I was busy with my job and everything else, so I wasn't able to do that. But so I got notice from our volunteers for the awards that the nominations were not going to be ready tonight. Now, that doesn't usually happen. We don't usually have to postpone nominations. It's you know, it's very unusual. But again, things like this happen. And I overestimated. Really, I underestimated how long it was going to take to deal with this, because, quite frankly, this year the turnout that we got was insane, and a lot of it came in later than usual. And that's the one thing that I always worry about when we do this in summer, is I worry about like people being so busy that they don't get the stuff in on time, and then we have a lot of people at the last minute and that kind of thing. So we have to postpone, and we'll do them next week. We'll start the live vote of the awards next week. Now, a lot of you over the weekend told me that you thought that it was better off when we had less time in between anyway. Now, we have had less time in between. We did that the last couple of weeks. But in deciding the winners, tonight we were going to announce the nominations, and then you were going to have until, I think it was August 28th. August the 28th to decide the winners, get your winning ballots in. So that would have given you 3 weeks. So you would have had probably one more week than I think we did for the film awards, if I'm right. Yeah, one more week than the film awards. So, you know what? It's fine. And I think a lot of you are going to like this anyway, better anyway, because, like I said, a lot of you prefer it when there's a shorter amount of time in between steps, because then you feel like you have more urgency. I think it's like a mindset. When you feel like you have more time, you don't get around to doing it. So, I know there's going to be some people that are going to be like, well, wait a minute, we just lost a week of voting. How is that fair to us? Kind of, it isn't. So I'm going to put it to you all this way, okay? Because I even though I don't really want to do this, but people that say it's unfair have a point. All right, it's not your fault that the nominations weren't done in time, that there was more of a turnout than we expected this time around. I probably should have went and got three more. I did cut back on the amount of people involved, not just because I felt like we didn't need them, but because some of them didn't really have a whole lot of time, and investing and bringing them on was going to mean probably putting off the awards anyway, because I just don't think they would have had the time. It would take a little bit longer. With them being involved, it would take a little bit longer, because they wouldn't have been able to do it all as quickly as I would have liked. So, again, it's not all your fault. It's not any of your faults that this is happening. It's just one of those things where, people have lives and they're busy, and it just didn't get done as quickly as we thought. With the turnout we had, it was just hard to do. So with that in mind, over this next week, right now, we're going to keep things as they are. Next week, we'll announce the nominations. We'll let you all start getting involved with deciding the nominees for the live vote of the awards. We'll start that process up next. We'll do that next week, okay? However, I'm looking for feedback this week, okay? If you all think you need another week, if you want to go back to the original idea and have 3 weeks between the nominations being announced and when the winning ballots are due. If you feel like, you know, you have to have that extra week, if there's a lot of people that, again, I'm going to judge it based on how much feedback I get. If I get 2 or 3 people or, you know, 50 people or whatever out of however many, I don't got the exact number in front of me, people have submitted ballots, okay? To me, in my mind, okay, let me explain this in a better way. In my mind, if I don't get more than half of people, half of those involved in the process saying that they want the extra week, then we're not going to add the extra week. If we get more than half, then I will. That's to me, that's the fairest way to deal with it. Again, I apologize that it wasn't done in time. I wish it was. We never had to postpone a week before, but we're going to have to. It's just not ready. I'm not going to do half the nominations tonight and then announce another half next week. I'm not going to do that. So, so let me know what you all think over this next week. We'll keep everything as far as dates go in line right now, except for the fact that the nominations will be announced next Tuesday. We'll do that next Tuesday. And then if I determine that the feedback that we're getting indicates that it would be best to keep that extra week and postpone the awards a week, then I will do that. If I feel like that's not the case, that, you know, most people are okay with this, then, you know, we'll keep things as is. Based on what I already know, because I had talked to some people before earlier this week about this off the air, some of the feedback I got. And, you know, I mentioned that this could potentially happen. I was seeing the writing on the wall that things were a little bit behind with our awards committee tabulating the results. I did mention to a few people that we might end up being late with the nominations. They said, well, that's okay. Really, 2 weeks is plenty, especially once you get to deciding the winners, because you don't have as many options. You know, you got the full ballot in front of you. You just look at them and decide your winners. That's all you really have to do. It's less time consuming. So, you know, it doesn't take a lot of time to really go over that. So I already got the suspicion that a lot of people will be okay with this. But again, I could be wrong. And I want to make sure that in the interest of fairness, that I allow for people to have their voice heard. That's what the purpose of the show is. And if you all feel so inclined that you need that third week in between the nominations being announced and the winning ballots being due, then so be it. If you don't, then we'll keep things as they are, and we'll go with the original 28th deadline. So let me know over the next week what you think, and we'll go from there. So with no nominations tonight, no live voted award discussion tonight or any of that stuff, you know, that takes a huge chunk out of the show. And because realistically, if you really look at things, okay, in the sports world, it's all about baseball. And look, the trade deadline has come and gone. There's been a few little moves from the waiver wire. But that's it. Things have calmed down significantly. Now it's just about the pennant races and we have a lot to talk about there. So that's not like there's nothing to talk about there. There is. But things have significantly quieted down there. And then you have again, nothing else as far as sports. We got the Urban Meyer thing, which we'll talk about, but really, I don't really want to go into it too far, because I just think there's not much that can be said about it. They got that, so that's really all you got in sports right now to really talk about here. And then entertainment, we just got the box office, and we are going to finally. I put it off long enough. We're going to do some stuff with the James Gunn situation. We'll talk about that a little bit. But that's it for entertainment. And then on the wrestling side, right now it's kind of like, let's just get to SummerSlam. So not a whole lot. And again, that kind of played in our favor, having to do the nomination with the idea of doing the nominations tonight, because we really didn't have a whole lot of other things to do. But now we do. So, you know, it is what it is. We'll do the best we can with it. And I know there's some people out there that mentioned to me, you know, the people that I had talked to about the idea of moving the nominations to next week. They said, well, wait a minute. A few of them are wrestling fans. They said, well, what about SummerSlam? SummerSlam's next week. You're going to do a wrestling show. Well, we're going to have to see how things work out. I really would rather not do 2 shows next week. I don't like doing 2 shows in the summer. You all know how I feel about that. But we might have to next week. Maybe we do, or maybe what we do is we'll manage somehow. I mean, we were going to do other topics tonight with the awards, so maybe we'll figure something out. I'll kind of think about that, contemplate, and kind of feel my way through the next week and see what I think is the best solution to that. But right now, look, we'll do something. We'll preview SummerSlam. We'll do something with it. Wrestling fans, don't worry, we will. But at the same time, we got other things going on too, so we'll do the best we can to make as many people happy as we possibly can. But yeah, so we're kind of up against it with that. But, we'll figure it out. So, again, but not a whole lot to do tonight because of the fact that, not a lot's going on. You're kind of in that summer lull right now. So this won't be the longest show, but there'll be a show nonetheless. So, as always, let's get going. We'll do the box office first. Last week I started off with the trade deadline and everything. I wanted to kind of shift things a little bit, and I also thought it was worth it because that was the hot topic, but also I wanted to kind of get back in that vein of going into the big stuff first. But I'm going to shift things this week and go back to what we've been doing for most of the summer, which is starting with the box office stuff first, because I just like to get it done and over with. And you know what? Since we do have a lot next week, and maybe we might have to do it all in one show, let's do a double box office beat tonight. And then that way we don't have to do the box office beat next week. We'll wait 2 weeks, and then that will save us a little bit of time next week. So that's what we'll do. We'll do a double box office beat right now because really there's not a whole lot to talk about as far as the box office right now. We're in that August. I said the summer is petering out just like last year, and we're in August now, and it's continuing to do that. And look, if Hollywood didn't, if Mission Impossible wasn't doing what it was doing over these last 2 weeks, it'd be a mess for the summer standards anyway. It would be because right now there's just not a whole lot of draws there. Mission Impossible is kind of holding things up as far as the summer goes. So and that was the story of last year. Mission Impossible held on and took number one once again for $35.3 million total, 42% drop off, which is terrific. Very, very strong hold for that film. Last week had 3 new major releases: Disney's Christopher Robin, The Spy Who Dumped Me, and The Darkest Minds. 2 of those totally flopped. One of those, by Disney standards, did not do very well. And look, Disney went into this already kind of knowing this. You could see the trajectory. They know what happened with Pete's Dragon a couple years ago. So I think they had that fear that, releasing this movie in August might do that. But I think they hope that it's a family film, maybe get some kids to see it. Well, it didn't work out as Christopher Robin pulled in only $24.5 million. Now, you might be saying, well, wait a minute, $24.5 million isn't that bad. Well, by summer standards for a Disney film, it is. And, when you only make $5.1 million overseas, only $32.8 million worldwide, that's not great. It's not great, especially when you consider, that's its opening week. It's going to be the biggest week it's going to get. So not a very good total, very disappointing. The feeling that you get is that the movie was marketed wrong, that they marketed more towards adults and nostalgia instead of trying to really get more, younger kids. If you look at the numbers, a lot of it's skewed older. So, there might have been a disconnect there that could have hurt it. Honestly, I never expected it to do huge numbers. Not because I don't enjoy Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin, not because of that, but because I just didn't. The timing was all wrong to me. To me, you go back to, if you go back to the early to mid 90s, and anybody that's my age knows what I'm talking about. You would have family films all throughout the summer, especially in late July, August. You'd have, movies like Heavyweights and Big Green and I think The Sandlot came out in summer, if I remember correctly. Like, you had those movies throughout the summer. It wasn't just action films and you had those movies. And as the 90s went on, that kind of stopped. And now you don't even see these kind of films. They're kind of like very few and far between. They're spread out. But if you do see them, they tend to be released a lot in the fall, maybe even in Christmas time. You don't see them in spring. You don't see them in summer. Once in a while, you see one pop up in February, like during winter break. but that's it. That's about the extent of it. So putting this movie, which in my mind fits into that niche of, you know, being that kind of family movie that you take, you know, the kids to see. It's a family type thing, okay? It's not something that kids are going to seek out on their own. It's, you know, releasing this now in August, and I know August has become the doldrums of summer now, but to me was a very, very bad mistake. It just was, because you know, it's, first of all, again, it's the doldrums of summer, and you got people already starting to think about going back to school. They're in summer vacation mode, and you know, and I know it sounds crazy because, you know, if you're a teacher or you're a student that got out of school in June, well, you're already more than halfway through the summer. So you are, you know, you're already seeing that, like, oh my gosh, we're already 4 or 5 weeks away from school. You know, and then again, the timing of this, you know, people are off doing other things. And that means that if they're off doing other things, okay, they're not going to the movies. And if the adults are off doing other things, not bringing their kids to the movies. So this is where you get hurt here. Maybe they should have held this till September or even November, when, you know, kids are in school and you're not fighting up against so many other things going on. So to me, the release time, and I didn't really talk much about that before because I wasn't sure how it was going to be received. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a problem. I knew the risk was there that it could be a problem. I'm sure the studio did. And I think that's probably why, you know, a couple weeks before this film came out, even though the marketing was being ratcheted up, you could see that they were you could see that they were dropping their expectation for this movie. I don't think Disney was ever out of control for it, but I think they were thinking at least 40, 45, maybe 50 million, I think is what they were thinking. That might seem ridiculous to some, but I think that's what they were thinking. And then as they got closer, they started backtracking and going, okay, you know what, 20, $30 million. And that's really where I expected it to be. And I said it before, I thought that would be a little disappointing, and it is. It is. So it ain't even going to get a release in China. So there's not much, you know, it's going to make what it's going to make. It probably will end up doing better, you know, on Blu-ray than anything else. But, you know, it is what it is. So very disappointing there. The Spy Who Dumped Me, the Mila Kunis McKinnon vehicle, 12.1 million. I'm a little surprised by that. I thought it would do better. Comedies have just not done well. There hasn't been that many comedies this year. You would think that this one would do well, especially since it was marketed towards women. Did not do well. Just did not do well. Comedies have not had a good year this year. Just have not. And, you know, this is a $40 million budget, and it hasn't been released overseas yet, so not looking good for this one. So a total flop there. Outside of those movies, you had we had one more new release, but I'll get to that in a minute. We had Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. It's a holdover, drop from second to fourth, $9 million, a 40% drop off, which was expected. The Equalizer 2 came in fifth, dropping from third, $8.7 million. Hotel Transylvania 3 dropped from 4th to 6th, with a little over $8 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp in 7th with $6.3 million. And then The Darkest Minds, which was the third new release of last week, came in 8th with $5.8 million. Now, it only had a $34 million budget, but still, that's a terrible number. Only made $4.1 million overseas. It's only around $11 million so far worldwide. Again, though, not much marketing. Not much anticipation for it. It's one of those movies that's based on a book that gets buried in late summer or buried in a terrible release date that you could tell at the time, you know, it gets developed. At the time that it's getting developed and pitched, everybody's like, oh, yeah, this is a good idea, even though it's been done a million times before. And then halfway through filming, they're like, you know what, I'm not feeling this the same way. Well, we're already halfway through making it. Let's just finish it and hope it does something. That's basically what this movie is. This is the quintessential August release now in current box office trends. It's the typical August release, a movie that we lost faith in, that we just going to throw out there and hope that it gets something. And that's what Darkest Minds is. And again, 5.8 million its first weekend. Not really going anywhere fast with that one. Incredibles 2 was right under that in ninth with about 5 million, 4.98 million, 4.98 million to be exact. So right up there. So again, and by the way, Incredibles has passed the $1 billion mark, so add another $1 billion movie for Disney. Like they needed another one, right? So 9 movies, 5 million or above, which is great for first week of August. Even though again things have been petering out the last few weeks, still not too bad. And overall, it's not bad for Hollywood. It's not, but it's not great either. Again, this has kind of been what's happened over the last couple of years, where the summers end up very front loaded. May is huge. June is somewhat huge. Now, once you get past the 4th of July, everything just kind of quiets down. And it used to be it never quieted down to about the 2nd or 3rd week of August. Not so much the case anymore. The changing, the trends have changed, and it is what it is. So, all in all, again, not too bad. And as you look at this weekend, you have 4 new releases, one of which is a release tomorrow. That release is Dog Days, a comedy from LD Entertainment, opening in 2,500 theaters, starring Vanessa Hudgens, Eva Longoria. They're listing it as a comedy, a dog film, which I think is kind of funny. PG, so again, another family film. Wouldn't get your hopes up for it making much, maybe 6-7 million if it's lucky. It's not enough theaters to really factor into anything. So that's the release tomorrow. Then you have 3 releases for Friday. The biggest release is The Meg, a sci-fi thriller from Warner Bros. Opening over 3,900 theaters, PG-13, starring Jason Statham, Lee Bingbing, and Jessica McNamee. Been very well promoted. I really don't expect much from it. If it makes 20 million, it should consider itself lucky. I just don't see it doing huge business despite its theater count. Next up, you have Slender Man, a horror film from Sony Screen Gems, opening in over 2,000 theaters. Somehow it's PG-13. I don't know how. That could open it up to doing some decent business. This is one of the movies I thought could be a potential sleeper this year, because of it's such a folklore kind of thing, and it's had such a traction as far as people telling the stories of Slender Man and everything like that. So I could really see this movie doing better than people expected to. I think a lot of people have it listed like 14-15 million. I could see I could see this one being a sleeper hit. We'll have to see. I'm going low if I could see it maybe pull. I think it's going to beat The Meg. I really do, despite its theater count. I do think it's going to beat it. I don't know by how much, but I think it is. And then you have from Focus Features Black Klansman, opening in 1,500 theaters, a drama directed by Spike Lee and starring Adam Driver, Topher Grace, and John David Washington. And again, R-rated, so it's not going to see a huge amount of business. It's not in a lot of theaters, but probably enough to get it to 8, 9, 10. It could even do better than that. I've heard some people say it could do better than that. So, yeah, I think that one will. I think I could see it do 8, 9, 10, maybe even a little more than that. All right, so because again, we're going to do a double edition of the box office beat. I'm making decisions on the fly here tonight. Before we get to that, let me make the predictions for this coming weekend. It's going to be a close race to number 1. I think Mission Impossible is going to hold very, very well. So I think I'm going to go with Mission Impossible taking number 1 again with 20 million. And I'm going to go with Slender Man with 18 million. The Meg with 15 million. Let's see. I'm going to go with Christopher Robin with 13 million. Black Klansman at 10. Spy Her Dump Me around 9. Mamma Mia 2 around 7, 8. Dog Days I'll put around 6.5. Equalizer around 6. Hotel Transylvania 2 will probably be around 6 as well. Ant-Man and the Wasp at 5 million. Everything else, I believe, will be under 5 million this weekend. So that's the way I see things playing out this weekend. Now, next weekend, the weekend of the 17th, now you're firmly starting to build out of summer here. Because the R flings are going to start getting to be, again, you're starting to get into let's throw whatever we can throw out there, including a movie that's been delayed, like Alpha, which is will be one of the big movies released next week. And again, we don't have theater counts; it's too early. For those wondering why I'm not listing theater counts, from Sony Columbia, I should say. Alpha, starring Cody Smith-McPhee, PG-13. This movie's been postponed, I think, once already, maybe more than that. Very well promoted. Very well promoted. It should find an audience among the family crowd. But again, we have seen some family movies not do so well so far this year. So maybe it won't. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think this one's something that some people have been interested in this year. So it's been postponed, like I said, and I've seen some people actually anticipate. So I think it could pull in around 15 to 20 million, even in late summer. I could see that. Because again, I've seen people wanting to see it, and I've seen a little bit more anticipation than other family films that have been released this year. Then we got Mile 22, R-rated film from director Peter Berg, starring Mark Wahlberg, Ronda Rousey, and John Malkovich. It'll probably find an audience. Maybe like 50. It'd probably be close between this and Alpha. Maybe 15 to 18 million. I could see it doing. Kind of your traditional summer action flick. But I think it'll do okay. I don't think it'll do great. I think it'll do okay. I forgot to mention there is a release next Wednesday, and that's Crazy Rich Asians, a romantic comedy from Warner Brothers, which has been getting a lot of having a lot of anticipation. And it's PG-13, and I've seen a lot of people say that this could find a lot of there's some cultural resonance to this. It's like Black Panther, and it is refreshing to see diversity, and it's refreshing to see this film led by mostly Asian cast, if not all Asian cast. So this is interesting, and I think it could end up being a sleeper hit as well. And I could actually see that movie being #1 next weekend. I really could. In fact, I'm going to predict it to be #1 next weekend. So, but I don't think it'll be with a huge amount, but I think it'll be with enough to get some headlines. So I'm going to go with Crazy Rich Asians leading the pack next weekend with 25 million. Maybe even more than that, because again, I think it's going to surprise. I'm going to go with Alpha with around 20, Mile 22 around 18. And then let's see. I'll go with Mission Impossible around 12. Slender Man around 11. The Meg around 9. Christopher Robin around 8. Spire Dump Me around 7.5. Mamma Mia around 6.5. Probably Black Klansman right around there as well. Equalizer around 5.5. Hotel Transylvania around 5 as well. I think Ant-Man and Wasp would drop below 5, be right at that mark. Dog Days, I think, will drop below 5 million. So, and everything else, I think, will be under 5 million. So that's how I see next weekend going. Again, some are just kind of petering out. I've been using that phrase a lot the last couple of weeks, and I used it a lot last summer too. But I think I think this weekend with Slender Man and next weekend with Crazy Rich Asians, you may have a couple of potential sweepers that do better than you expect them to. After next weekend, you got 3 new releases the weekend of the 24th. Is it Axel, AXL? I don't know which one to say, but it's a family film, another family film. Kind of like a throwback to the 90s for all these family films. Searching, a thriller from Sony Screen, and The Happy Time Murder is a comedy that's getting a lot of attention. That one could end up being a huge hit too, and not necessarily sweet because it's built a lot of traction over the summer. So that one could end up being a hit. We'll see what happens with that. We'll talk more about that in a couple weeks. But for now, that's the box office beat. So we did 2 weeks worth of box office numbers. And I know it's kind of all over the place. I don't really like to do a double box office beat because it always kind of ends up being kind of unwieldy. We don't have theater counts. But I figured with us having the potential to do so much next Tuesday, better to get this out of the way tonight. So that's why I did it. So yeah, so box office beat double edition now over. We'll in 2 weeks we'll revisit these predictions and all the big topics from the previous 2 weeks, and then look ahead, of course, to the upcoming weekend at the box office. So there you go, box office beat. Now, let's move on to a topic that I've been putting off for the last couple weeks. And that's because I didn't know if I was going to be able to get my co-host Mike on, because Mike, I think, would have liked to have talked a lot about this particular topic. But he's not here, and I don't want to put it off because people have been asking my opinion on it. And I'm not going to go on a long diatribe about this topic because I don't think it's necessary. So much has been said about it. The James Gunn situation, which is, again, it's been a huge topic in Hollywood. And I'm sure everybody by now knows what he did, that, tweets from 5, 6, 7 years ago where he, made some very disgusting, inappropriate comments, which I agree that they are disgusting, they're revolting, they should have never been said. And look, here's the thing, okay? Because I've been reading all the reactions and all the opinions, and there are things I agree with and there's things I don't agree with. Let me just state this, okay? We all make inappropriate comments and jokes. We all do it. Anybody that says they never did is lying to you. We all put our foots in our mouth. We all make mistakes. We all say things we don't want to. We shouldn't say. We all say things we don't mean. Sometimes we do things to get people's attention. We all do these things. Okay, we all do. Anybody that says we haven't or we don't is lying to you. I'm sorry, they are. Nobody's perfect. Okay, so anybody that goes out there and says, "Oh, who could ever do this?" Net, look in the mirror, because you could do it too. I'm not saying you say the exact same things. I'm not saying you feel that way. I'm just saying that you've said something inappropriate or something offensive that you shouldn't have said. We all have. We all have. We've all done things we don't want to do, or said things we don't want to. We shouldn't have said. Now that I've said that, does it make it right? No. Should there be consequences? Yeah, there should be. You say what you say, you have to own it. You do what you do, you have to own it. Just because I understand and I say, you know what, we all do it, doesn't mean it makes it right, doesn't mean it should be excused. That's the bottom line. So what's my point here to start off? My point is this. We should have a little bit of empathy. We should understand and put ourselves in the shoes of the person that says something like this. Because if we were in his shoes, we'd want a do-over. We'd want the benefit of the doubt. We'd want redemption. We all do. We all want redemption for mistakes that we made. Now, not everybody always deserves it, because it's one thing to make a mistake. It's another to repeat those mistakes or have a pattern of behavior. Now, James Gunn said a lot of things in his past, said a lot of things on Twitter. And he did it in his own words because he wanted to be provocative. He wanted to get people's attention. He wanted to ruffle feathers. And that's why a lot of people do those kind of things. That's why often a lot of us do things. We do things because we're trying to get people to focus on us. Doesn't make it right, but happens. But there's a big difference between somebody that does stuff like that and then doesn't really do it anymore. Doesn't put it on Twitter. To our knowledge, has been very well behaved, never had a controversy, never caused a problem since he got hired by Disney. So in other words, he's been a model employee in that regard. Yes, he gets into some fights on Twitter, into some political arguments and stuff like that, but a lot of people do. You can't. He's entitled to state his opinions. He's entitled to express himself. He has that right. But that's all you can really say that he's done. Maybe he's made a comment here or there where you look at it and go, maybe he shouldn't have done that. But nothing on the level of what he once did, and at least from what I've seen and what I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me. Now, look, Disney has the right to fire him. I don't dispute that. If they think this is a detriment to them and their company, then fine. It is what it is. Do I think it is? It is if only if people make it that. And there are some people out there that are making it that, which they probably shouldn't be. Because everybody is hypersensitive right now. Everybody. We all are. I myself included. We all speak first and ask questions later. Or we condemn people right out of the gate without even learning the whole story or really taking into account everything. Which is wrong. We're not supposed to do that. You don't condemn every single person. You just don't do it. My thing is this, okay? Because people keep comparing this to Roseanne. And it's not even remotely close to the same thing. Roseanne has had problems and controversies going back 2 decades. She has not stopped what people are critical of her. She has not stopped that kind of behavior. She has not stopped saying the things that she said. And she doesn't do it to be provocative. She does it because she feels like doing it. And that's her right. She has a right to free speech and freedom of expression, no matter how offensive and insulting and repulsive it is. She has the right. Just like we have the right to not like it and speak out against it. But comparing what she's done and the decision to fire her to what's going on with James Gunn, if you don't, and you can't compare it. If you think you can, then you don't know the facts or you're ignoring the facts, which happens a lot in today's world. It's not, for me, from my perspective, to me, I'm keeping the politics out of it. I don't want the politics involved here. I'm just talking about a matter of what we're all, and I spoke about this last week. Really, what is the right thing to do is to every situation, you look at it, you examine it, you take into account everything that's out there, all the information, and you make a determination. That's what you do. You don't just go, oh, somebody puts a story out there and go, oh, that means, oh, well, you're done. Oh, you should be fired. Oh, get out of my face. No, that's not how it works. You're innocent till proven guilty, and being proven guilty is not necessarily, proven guilty means there's enough evidence to legitimately say that somebody's guilty, okay? Now, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. You also have the right to redemption and to redeem yourself. Because even if you prove that somebody did something, don't they, I mean, unless they're just a repeated amount of behavior where it just keeps going and going and going, and this person just doesn't get it and they just continue to do it. Unless that's the case, don't people deserve a chance to redeem themselves? Don't they deserve a chance at forgiveness? Since when do we not give people that chance? Since when do we just condemn, like, oh, you're done, your career's done, your life is done, you're done. We don't want nothing to do with you, you're done. Look what we've seen in sports. How many times somebody has done something, made a lot of mistakes, whether it was during the steroid era or people that go through drinking and all this. I know that's a little bit different. Those battling personal demons and stuff like that. But how many times have we allowed people in the past in sports to redeem themselves in front of us, no matter how bad the circumstances? How many times have we watched celebrities screw up time and time again, and then eventually the light bulb goes off and they get it right? And we watch as their fans, or even if we're not their fans, even as just an outsider looking in, we feel inspired when they make their big comeback. Look what Robert Downey Jr. did. And again, I know the circumstances might be different, but in James Gunn's situation, you're talking about somebody that made comments. To our knowledge, he hasn't done anything to anybody. He offended a lot of people. He insulted them. What he said was disgusting. I don't like what he said, and I do hold it against him. I hold him accountable. I don't like what he said. And I hope that he doesn't say those kind of things anymore. I hope it's not indicative of the way he feels. Because if it is, I lose a lot of respect for him. I already lost a lot of respect for him. And I followed his Twitter for years. I knew he said those things. It's something that I've always kind of held against him. Like, you know what, dude? I wish you haven't said those things. I wish that you didn't tweet those things. I wish that you had, because again, just because you have the right to say those things, and you do have the right to tweet it as well, doesn't mean that you should. Because see, that's something that a lot of people need to get, not just celebrities, but just people in general. If it's bad, if it's just as offensive to say it on Twitter as it is to say it in public. Because I think what happens is, I mean, and this doesn't work for celebrities, because celebrities are known people. Everybody knows them around the world. But the average person, so many people join social media because they like the anonymity. They like the fact that people don't know them. They can go and say what they want. They can say things to people that they would never say to them in public. They can say things to people that if they ran into them, they would never say to them. They can do that. And they can hide behind their keyboard. Celebrities can't do that because you know who they are. You're going to go after them. You're going to criticize them. You're going to tear them apart in the press. You're going to tear them apart probably on social media when you see them comment on something. You're going to say, hey, you're going to take them to task right then and there. So, a celebrity should know better, but the average person knows better, but they still do it because they're like, hey, you know what? Nobody knows me. I'm hiding behind my keyboard. I can do it. But it can still come back to haunt you even then. Maybe you're going for a job interview and they pull up your social media or whatever. So my rule of thumb is this: don't tweet it. Don't Facebook it. If you think something could get you in trouble or offend somebody, don't post it. If it's something that would offend somebody to their face, then you shouldn't be posting it. I'm sorry. That would alleviate the problems right there. The fact of the matter is this, okay? And this is because I know there's a lot of layers here. And we're moving to different angles and all that kind of thing. I don't defend the comments. I think they're repulsive. I think they're disgusting. He needs to be held accountable for them. And to my knowledge, he has been, even before this all came out. You know, I know they were drudged up by somebody that has done his own share, made his own share of mistakes, which makes it all the more wrong. Because I think that person should be held accountable for what they've done too. And then I want to get into the political stuff of this because I don't think I don't care to. I don't want to make this a political thing. I want to make this more about, you know, the situation. My feeling is this: I don't defend what he said. The comments, they're disgusting. They're revolting. I've always held him against him because I've been a fan of James Gunn's for a long time. His film work. I never liked what he said on Twitter. Never. Back then. I still don't like a lot of the stuff he posts, he tweets now. But it's gotten more tame and he's whatever. It is what it is. It's not as bad as it once was. And again, Disney has the right to fire him if they think it's hurting their brand. I understand that. And people are going to say, well, why were they all care of it before? Well, because it wasn't being drudged up and it didn't have a whole campaign of people behind it now coming at them saying, well, you got to fire him because he's disgusting. He's revolting. You can't keep this guy. Basically, he's got it's a witch hunt now. So you have to get rid of him. We've seen this time and time again. It happens all the time, especially with the advent of social media. Something gets put out there, and whether the person is innocent or not, or mind you, whether it's something that is fireable or not, they end up getting fired anyway because you have no choice as a company or or whatever. You have no choice. It's bad PR, and you know people aren't going to let it go until you do something about it. So you let the person go, and that's it. And it's unfortunate. And I'm not saying that he should. I'm not saying that they don't have the right to fire. And honestly, I kind of understand why they fired him. On the fact, again, I've said this since the beginning here. They have a right to fire him. Even disregarding that fact, I see it. Even if I didn't think they had the right, I understand why they would. You know, given the Roseanne thing, it was like a double standard if you don't. I get that. Because people aren't going to see it differently. They're going to see it the same way. So I don't want to make this about whether I think they should have fired him or not, because I could see why they would, and they have the right to do so. What I am making this about is the fact that let's not act like people can't come back from making inappropriate comments on social media. Because people have come back from worse. To me, it's just crazy how people think, well, you made these comments, your life should be over. If they're comments. Because people can grow, they can evolve, they can mature. And I'm not saying that, James Gunn still doesn't say these things and still doesn't feel, and I'm not saying he doesn't feel, for all I know, this is a reflection of who he is, and he hasn't changed. He just made sure he kept his mouth shut on social media. If that's the case, I lose even more respect. I have lost respect. I lost respect from when he was tweeting those things 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's not like I'm okay with this, folks. Don't give me mail saying, oh, you're defending. I'm not defending him. Like I said, Disney had the right to fire him. I get why they fired him. And I don't advocate for what he said on social media. But what I am advocating for is making sure that you give people the right and the respect to try to redeem themselves. Because we all would want that. If the shoe was on the other foot, you have the right, you deserve the right and the chance and the respect to be able to come back from what you've done. Unless you just keep doing it. If you're somebody that doesn't show any remorse and you just keep going and going and going and going and going and keep making the same mistakes and you're like, I don't give a crap, then you know what? No, you don't. But if you're somebody that, you can see that it's somebody that's generally trying and You've done some things, and then you went years without doing those things. And you look like you've really changed for the better, or at least it appears that way. Then you deserve a chance. I know I would. I've made my share of mistakes. Now I haven't done anything criminal or anything like that. But every one of us has made mistakes, and I'm sure all of us have been given a chance to make up for them. Why shouldn't somebody like James Gunn? Why? Why shouldn't anybody? As long as they don't continuously do the things that they've been accused of. If they show that, hey, I made these mistakes in the past, but in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, I haven't done these things. I've learned from those things. I'm a different person now. Can't you give them the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise? Why can't you? Why is that not okay? Why is that not okay? And if you say, well, they didn't do that for Roseanne, well, Roseanne didn't stop doing what she was doing. She's still doing it, even after everything that's happened. And again, she don't have to stop. She has a right. She can keep going. She can say whatever she wants to say and whatever. She has that right. Doesn't mean we all have to like it. But don't act like it's the same thing. She's still doing the things that people have an issue with her about. From our knowledge, James Gunn is not. At least that's the way it appears. It could be very well not the truth. And if that's the case, then that changes the whole narrative here. But as I know it, and as I've seen it, it does not appear that way. So despite the fact I don't like his comments, and I find them offensive and revolting and just plain disgusting, like just terribly wrong. And it really, when I saw them years ago, he did lose a lot of respect with me. He did. He did. I lost a lot of respect for him, and I've never gotten it back because he still made comments here and there that were just wrong too. But I still, you know, those comments were nowhere near what they were years ago. So to me, it was like, okay, I think I see him maturing. I think he sees that, I see somebody that's evolving and learning from mistakes in the past. That's what I've always seen. If I did see that, I wouldn't have any respect for him. But that's what I've seen, and that's why I carry some respect over. But if I find out that there's things that we don't know about that publicly, then that's different. Then it changes the whole narrative, and it changes my whole opinion of the situation. But as it stands now, I give him the benefit of the doubt. I give him a chance to continue to evolve, to continue to mature, and learn from the mistakes he's made. I think, it seems like he has to me, but I'm sure he's continuing, at least on the surface, to do that. Because it's not like it just takes you a few years and then all of a sudden you're a perfectly round individual. It's a constant battle. It's a constant learning curve. You have to keep going at it and keep trying until one day you figure, hey, you know what? I've come a long way. I think I've come all the way. I think I've made it. I think I'm past that now. I think I'm finally a person that won't do those things anymore. And then when that day happens, you know what? Then you're like, you know what? Okay, all right. And then you show people that, and people are like, you know what? Wow, I'm very proud of where you've come from, where you were at, and where you are now. It's like night and day, or it's great to see. That's how it's supposed to work. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes people don't learn. They repeat the mistakes and they never get out of their own way. And then, at some point along the way, you just lose that benefit of the doubt and you lose that respect for them. But until that point happens, in my opinion, this is my feeling. You don't have to do this. Nobody has to do this. But in my opinion, until that happens, give them the benefit of the doubt. Let them try to redeem themselves and say that that person that made those comments was an ugly person, was a person that was wrong, that I'm not proud of, and as a person that no longer is here. It's a person that's evolved, matured, and will not make those kind of comments anymore. Give him the chance to do that. On the surface, it appears he's become that, even though he occasionally does say something that kind of makes you cringe. It's not what it was. So that alone shows you that he's better, at least on the surface. That doesn't mean we won't find out a day or two or a week or a month or a year from now that there's things that we don't know, and then it changes everything. But on the surface and what it appears, I see somebody that really has evolved and matured. And that doesn't absolve him from what he said in the past. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean he's not accountable. It doesn't mean he should not continue to take responsibility for it. He should. It doesn't erase anything. What it does is it makes you able to look at the man or appreciate his work and just kind of be able to say, you know what? Good for you. You've come a long way and you've done a good job. That's what it does. So it's going to be a continuing, evolving saga. The Guardians cast has come to his support. They're still. I said this to somebody off the air because people asked me. They said to me, "Well, what do you think's going to happen?" And I said, honestly, I think they're going to. I don't think they'll bring him back. But if they do bring him back, I think there's a chance that they do. If they do bring him back, I think they'll delay the movie. They won't start until like January or February. They'll bring him back after the holidays when things have quieted down. That's what I think they'll do. If they bring him back, I think they'll wait a few months, bring him back when things have quieted down and everybody's kind of moved on. And that's how I think they'll do it. I don't think they will. Like right now, I'd say the chance of bringing them back are like 70-30 no. But I think because of the cast, I think there's in the fan support, there's a chance. But I think if they did that, they'd wait as long as they possibly can, because they can play with the release date. Because they didn't never promise it'd be 2020, but they can play with the release date. So, they'll delay the movie as long as they really think they could. Bring them back, and then go from there. That's how I would see it happening. And by the way, I think the Guardians cast has handled this very well. Unifying together like that in issuing that statement was a smart move. Now, some people don't think it was because, for those that don't think he should be rehired, they think it's going to hurt their careers. Well, look, you stand up for what you believe in, no matter what the risk. I will never argue against somebody doing that. And I can appreciate them unifying and going together like that. I think that's an amazing thing to do. So, all right. So I don't want to go any further because I ran out of time. I went for a lot longer on this, and it's got so many layers to it. And it's kind of one of those topics where you meander around because you can put so much into it, including politics. I try to keep out of it. So I don't want to go any further with it, but I felt like we needed to finally comment on it. So that's what we did. And I know that we'll be talking about it more as we go along, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And again, everybody's entitled to feel the way they do about it. I don't think anybody's. I don't. This is one of those issues where I don't think as far as like the firing, I can see both sides as far as the firing goes. This my view. So, all right, let's jump out of entertainment where we've been all show and jump into some wrestling. We're going to be very quick about this because again, we don't. I mean, there's just not a lot going on. And really, all we got in wrestling is what happened on last night's Raw, and then tonight's SmackDown. Raw last night was very uneventful. You had the Ronda Rousey main event, Ronda debuting on Raw for first match. Great. Which worked effectively enough. I think it was what it was supposed to be. And then they furthered the Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns stuff, and I mean, really a very uneventful Raw. Really, the most interesting was the Paul Heyman thing. They're laying it out a little too thick that he might betray Brock, so I'm kind of thinking he won't. So again, not really a lot. There's really not much coming out of Raw last night. There really isn't. SmackDown tonight, a little bit more eventful. That's some great stuff with Randy Orton and that heel turn, which I think has been great. Let's see. Charlotte and Becky had a match with the Iconics, which was very good. Miz accepted Daniel Bryan's SummerSlam challenge. So you got that match set. Some good stuff with AJ and Samoa Joe. Let's see. Some more stuff with Lana. They got to figure out where they're going with that Lana Rusev stuff. They really do. And English stuff. They got to figure that out. Miz Daniel Bryan was once again a very, very kind of really good segment. And then the main event ended up being New Day versus The Bar, which was a great match. New Day will face the Bludgeon Brothers now in the tag team tournament final. After the tag team tournament final aired tonight, they will face New Day will face the Bludgeon Brothers at SummerSlam. So that came out. It was a great match, really great match. So very good end to the night. So SmackDown kind of confirms a few matches: the Miz, Daniel Bryan, and of course the tag team title match, New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers. So you got those two matches confirmed. Very more eventful. I mean, again, I guess not really. Well, I guess they had this more development. Was build up, but there's a few more developments. Whereas Raw was a further build up. Not very much less eventful. But yeah, SmackDown I thought was a much better show tonight than Raw was last. And again, just more eventful in general. So yeah. The other big news is there's talk now that Brock Lesnar might continue to work for WWE, and beyond SummerSlam, and apparently there's talk that he wants to work for both WWE and UFC. If that's the case, he might not drop the title at SummerSlam. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on here going forward, which, it's crazy, but hey, Brock likes this whole free agent. I only work a few months for one place in thing, and he's probably going to milk it for a while. I never thought it was a foregone conclusion that he left WWE entirely. I always figured that he'd kind of work and then go do his UFC fight and then work for WWE and then go back and forth. I always kind of felt like he might do that. He'd be stupid not to. He's making too much money. So it wasn't that surprising. The other news is it looks like Dean Ambrose will be back as early as SummerSlam, so we could see something there. And the long time rumor has been that he'd feud with Seth Rollins. I don't know if they do that right out of the gate, but maybe they'll plant some seeds right out of the gate. So we'll see. That's something to keep an eye on too in the next couple of weeks. But other than that, not a whole lot of wrestling stuff. Kane's the mayor of Knox County, which we all expected would happen. So you probably won't see him around WWE much anymore, but probably will see him pop up once in a while. Still, I imagine. So good news for him there. But other than that, not much going on. And I know, again, kind of a meandering segment because not a lot to talk about. Again, Raw was, just more build up, not very eventful. And then tonight, SmackDown a little bit better, just had more development, especially in terms of segment matches. But and that makes it more eventful just by default. But other than that, not much going on there. So not a lot going on in wrestling. Again, next week we'll have the build up to SummerSlam, so we'll have more to talk about, and we'll have to figure out how we're going to fit that in. But we'll figure it out. So yeah. So that's the wrestling stuff for this week. And now, again, I don't want to drag things out. Let's go to sports, where there's not a whole lot going on. What's going on other than baseball and the Urban Meyer situation? Let's talk about the Urban Meyer situation first. It's been, I'm not gonna go into all the details of the case. By now, you all probably know what's going on. Um, there's a lot of rallies going on right now, trying to get Urban Meyer, to keep his job. And look, it I don't know what's real. In my estimation, he probably should be fired. We've seen some situations like this, and usually the person ends up getting fired because it's the optics are not right, and I know there's a lot here um, to mine. I don't like what he did, and I do think there needs to be repercussions for that. And Ohio State acted swiftly, and I'm glad that they did because this is a nasty situation and it should be dealt with swiftly. Um, I would get rid of him. I think they will get rid of him. I appreciate what the fans are saying. Give him a chance. It doesn't sit right with me because if you did see here's the thing, and I just got done saying, well, people need second chances and everything, right? And I still stand by that. And I don't give up on Urban Meyer for good. Okay, he deserves a chance at redemption. He made a big mistake. Okay, but the question you have is this, and whenever you get in these situations, this is where it gets dicey. Okay, in a serious situation, because this is not just a comment. This is an action. Okay, you chose not to. He knew something, and this is more than just a comment. Okay, this is an action or non-action. You can look at it a couple ways, but so that makes it different than just like what James Gunn did, what I mentioned earlier, which was a comment, right? It's a little bit different, and far more serious in that regard. What's really difficult about these kind of situations, okay, like you have Urban Meyer, you don't know what else could be hidden. If you lie about something like this, it makes you wonder if there's other things you lied about or withheld. Do I think that's the case? I have no way of knowing. But it makes it difficult. And that's where people the parties involved have to look at this and go, if we keep this guy, we're gonna always wonder if there's something else that's gonna come out, if there's another skeleton in his closet, if something's gonna, when's the other shoe gonna drop, kind of deal, And that's why you always see these guys get fired, because it makes it very hard to have a good working relationship with somebody like that you don't know if you can trust them. Trust that this is the only skeleton that's in that closet. Trust that this is the only mistake he's made. And if you don't know, and you're like, oh gosh, it could be another shoe that drops. Oh, what else could come out? Oh, is he telling us the truth about this, that? If these thoughts are going through your head, then you can't keep him. You can't. It just makes it very hard to have a good enough working relationship with him. Now, again, that doesn't mean that he can't. As kind of a theme, that doesn't mean you can't come back from it. Okay, it's a bad mistake. It's a horrible mistake, and one where you lose a lot of respect for him. Like I've lost a lot of respect for him. But he can potentially try to come back from this. He can learn from this. He can evolve from this. Go away for a few years. Make a cut. Maybe you get another chance down the road, or you find something else where you can make up for what you've done. And then make a comeback in another form. It just doesn't mean you write off Urban Meyer and say, you know what, dude, you know what, you're done. Go hibernate. You're done with your career. You're done with being able to do anything in the public eye. You're done. That's no, you don't do that, because he could go away for a few years, learn from this mistake. If he has to get some help, get some help. to understand the situation and know maybe and understand the importance of what he's done or what he didn't do, and come back from it and say, you know what, it's been a few years, I made a bad mistake, and I want to get back into football, I want to get back into this or that or do this or do that. He just he can do that. He can do that. Doesn't mean you write off Urban Meyer for the rest of his life. That's not fair. He can come back from this and he deserves the opportunity to do that. Again, it doesn't excuse his mistake. It doesn't make it right. It's a disgusting, horrible mistake. But you know what? Own it. Take responsibility for it. Come out, apologize. Say, you know what? This was a horrible thing I did. Shouldn't have done it. Made a mistake. Go away for a while. Lie low. Enjoy your family. Try to come back from this. Do some things to mend fences, and demonstrate that you've learned, and not just demonstrate, but prove to us that you've learned from what you did wrong, and then see what your options are and see what you can do to get back on track with your career. That's what he deserves, the opportunity to do that, I think. I know I would feel I would deserve the opportunity. I would hope I'd get the opportunity if I ever made a mistake. I wouldn't make a mistake like that because I was in that situation. I would never do what he did. I just wouldn't. And I quite frankly, it's a mistake that I don't understand. I don't understand why people continuously withhold information like this. I don't. I just don't. I never understand why you know I never understand these situations. No, I just don't. So I mean, look, if you read the case, you know that Meyer said he followed protocol, and he's had some things. He said some things that contradict himself. Um, you know, I mean, really, what comes down to right now is this: does Ohio State think that this is a fireable offense? Meyer knew Smith was involved in a pattern of domestic violence allegations. Just they have to determine whether they think his response was adequate. Again, as I said earlier, it's hard to maintain a good working relationship with somebody that's done something like this. That's with not has concealed something like this, and let somebody continue to be on your staff when you know that they've done these things. It's hard to maintain a working relationship with somebody like that. And that's why that person usually goes when they make mistakes like this. And again, what he did was the complete wrong thing to do. And I just don't understand why people continuously do this. I really don't, because you see this mistake in different forms continue to happen. And I think I just don't understand what goes through people's minds when they do it. I just don't. So I think he'll get fired. And again, he can have another chance. He can go away for a while, lie low, try to redeem himself, mend some fences, learn from his mistake, and understand why what he did was wrong. And maybe he already understands it. I don't know. And then see what happens in a few years. He's already had health problems. He's had health problems that maybe it'll be beneficial for him to have some time off. Again, even if he comes back from it and he finds success again, I'm not trying. I mean, you don't forget what he did. It doesn't excuse what he did. Don't forget what he did. What he did was wrong. It was bad. Very, very bad. But it's something that he can. I mean, it doesn't mean his career necessarily has to be over. Might be at Ohio State. But in a few years, he could pick things up, and you see what happens. We can see what happens. You know, but definitely an issue that Ohio State needs to resolve quick, because when you look at this weekend, the Yankees have not looked good. They're not playing good baseball. Something needs to snap them. I'm not going to go into a Yankee rant here because I think the way Aaron Boone has handled this is wrong. You can communicate. You don't have to destroy your player, but you do have to light a fire under them. And there is a lack. The lack of fire is starting to hurt this team. I think they need to become more passionate, and they need to show it. And somebody needs to go out there and maybe it might even be better off coming from a player. Usually, a veteran getting in somebody's face, somebody that the team respects and stands behind, can really, really light a fire under a team. There were times this weekend I thought when maybe when one of the Yankees were thrown at that it riled because you saw signs of that, but I don't think that was enough. But sometimes a veteran like Stanton's only been on the team for half a season. Stanton could do it, or Brett Gardner can do it, or Cecil Sabathia can do it. Somebody that's had a long career and that the young guys can respect. Get in their face and they kind of try to light a fire. Like, oh God, we gotta go. Let's go. Come on, this is enough. Sometimes you need that push, and that's something that I would have liked to have seen this weekend. And I still haven't seen it, even though Yankees won last night. Still haven't seen it. So that's to me is problematic. I think that's something that they've been missing. But here's the thing right now. If you're looking at this from an outsider's perspective and you're not a Yankee Red Sox fan or something, the Red Sox are playing historic baseball. They're 80-34 right now. They've only lost 34 games. They're going to win 100 games, okay? They're going to challenge the New York Yankees record for wins. And if they make a big playoff run, they could challenge the overall wins record for the year. So they're playing at a historic clip. If the Yankees were in any other division, they'd be leading it. Look at the numbers. They're 69-42. The only other division they wouldn't be leading in is the West, but they'd only be a few games back. In fact, they played less games. The Yankees had the same amount of losses as the Astros, so they'd be leading that division too. And they'd be the number one team in the NL. There's only one team in baseball that has a better record than them. And it's the Red Sox. So you have to put this in perspective. Yes, the Yankees are playing better. Yes, it was a poor performance, but just because really what makes it tough for them is the division they're in. And they're not getting any help because nobody look, if you look at we talked about this last week. It's so many teams are bad this year. The Blue Jays and Orioles are both bad. The Orioles are historically bad. The Royals are bad. The White Sox are bad. The Tigers are bad. The Twins are not great. The Rays aren't really that great. They've hung in there. The Angels end up being not that great. They've kind of hung around, but not great. The Rangers are bad. The only leads with the Indians, the Astros, the Athletics, the Mariners, the Yankees, and the Red Sox as being decent teams in the American League. And now it's a little bit better. The Phillies, the Braves, both good. The Cubs, the Brewers, both good. Cardinals aren't too bad. Pirates aren't too bad. They're both over 500. Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Rockies, all not bad. Giants are around 500 team, not great, but not horrible. Padres are bad. Reds are bad. Miami is bad. The Mets are bad. Washington, not too bad. So it's a little bit better in the NL. But when you got all, that many teams bad, other teams are going to feast on it, and their numbers are going to look better. Nah, that's what the Yankees. If the Yankees beat a lot of the teams they should have beaten, they would have been right up there with the Red Sox. That's the thing that people miss. If the Yankees played better against the Orioles and the Rays, they might still be around 4 or 5 games out right now. That sweep wouldn't have done much for them against them. Or it would have done a lot against them, but it wouldn't have been as bad. So do I think the division race is over? Probably, but you don't write anything off. Right now, I think if you're the Yankees, you just got to worry about keeping the wild card because Oakland and Seattle are right on your tail. Oakland's playing some of the best baseball out there other than the Red Sox. Oakland 67-46. I told you I'll watch out for Oakland. Well, look at the wild card. The Yankees are up only 3 on the A's, who are up 2.5 on the Mariners. So that race is tightened up pretty quick. Now, obviously, the NL race is pretty tight with Milwaukee up 1.5 on the Braves, who are only up a half game on the Dodgers, 2.5 on the Rockies. The Cardinals are still alive at 4, only 4 games back, and the Nationals 4.5 back. The Pirates 5 back. I guess you can't even really write off the Giants. They're 6.5 out. So it's a pretty tight race there. Contrast the wild card race with the division stand. Red Sox, I mentioned, 9.5 up on the Yankees. Indians 10 up on the Twins. The only division race that's somewhat close is the West, and even that, the Astros have a 5-game lead on the A's and a 7.5-game lead on the Mariners, who are starting to fade a little bit, and they're about to get Cano back. So that might be just in time. So the division races aren't the races right now, the wild card races, but the division races can still tighten up. That the West could tighten up. Even the East, the Yankees have a lot of games to make up. And they still have 6 games left with the Red Sox. It can be done. It can be done. We went into this week thinking we were going to get an epic series, and the Yankees didn't hold up their end of the bargain. If the pitching was good, the hitting wasn't. If the hitting was good, the pitching wasn't. And sometimes, look like paid guys like Rick Porcello, not really grinding out at bats, not doing what they usually do. So it ended up being a pretty disappointing weekend as far as we wanted an epic clash and a good series. But these races are still good. There's still a lot of compelling stuff going on. We'll see if the Yankees can make a push and get back in the mix here with the Red Sox. The wild card race will obviously be interesting with Oakland surge in the AL, and of course what's going on in the NL. Will the Nationals find a way to make it, despite everything? So there's still a lot of storylines to be played out here. So it's going to be interesting. And over this next week, there's going to be very interesting because, right now we're August 7th, right? Yeah, August 7th. So we're almost in the middle part of August. And no one knows standings. No one knows races. You want to start looking out for what these teams. A lot of teams are playing bad teams this week. Like, you look at what's going on tonight. Cleveland's playing Minnesota. Look, that's not even a race. The Yankees are playing the White Sox. Milwaukee's playing the Padres. Philly's playing Arizona. That's a good series worth checking out. Dodgers playing the A's. That's another good series. Washington, Atlanta's another good series. Astros, Giants, another good series. So, you got some series to keep an eye on. But this weekend especially, the Nationals at the Cubs. Milwaukee at Atlanta. Seattle at Houston. Dodgers at Rockies. Some good series. I've always said this when it comes to playoff races. If you're within 3, if you're chasing, if you're within 3 on September 1st, you're in good shape. If you're more than that, it's going to be a tough go. You're asking for a lot from the teams ahead of you. If you're a team that's not chasing, if you're a team that's leading, you're in really good shape if you have a 5-game lead on September 1st. Those don't get blown that often. If it's less than that, you're not out of the woods. Simple as that. And, in baseball especially, with 162 games, and really in any sport, if you win the games, it's just like going to class, okay? If you go to class, that's half the battle right there. Especially when you're in college. You go to class, that right there should at least get you passing most of the time. Same thing in sports. If you the equivalent to that, what I just mentioned is the equivalent is winning the games that you're supposed to win. Beat the bad teams, the teams that you're better than. If you beat those teams, you're probably going to be in the playoffs 9 times out of 10. If you don't, you're probably not. That's the bottom line. So all these teams that are playing losing teams right now, win those games. You should go into them. You should go into those games with the same mentality as you would a playoff game and say, you know what, we're going to win every game. We have to win every game. Our back's against the wall. We got to win every game. That should be your mentality. Because if you go out there with that mentality against the teams that you're supposed to beat, you're going to have that same mentality against the teams that you're going to have a tougher time against. It's important to maintain that, or you might not be able to have it when you need it the most. So, again, it might not, the wild card races look tight, the division races don't, but that doesn't mean they won't tighten up, and that doesn't mean that, there's still not a lot of compelling stuff going on, because there is. Mike Fierce has got traded on the waivers wire from Detroit to Oakland, big move for them. I'd expect a few more big waiver trades, especially with what's going on in the last few years. Some teams could use them. We'll see if anything turns up. We'll see what else happens as we go throughout the rest of the month here. Because August 31st, of course, the deadline. I remember what happened with Verlander last year. Got moved right at the last minute. From the Tigers to the Astros, and that, of course, changed the whole course of everything last year, and they won the World Series, the Astros did, because of that. So you never know. August trades can be just as important as July trades. Just keep that in mind. All right, so with that being said, we are done for tonight. As always, the show might be over. It's not mean you have to stop interacting and contributing to our show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions about the show, scheduling the show, topic ideas, breaking news on sports, entertainment, wrestling you want us to cover. Question about the show, scheduling the show, and topic ideas, related to sports, entertainment, wrestling you want us to cover. And, of course, anything to do with the awards, if it's a submission, well, we're not submitting anything right now, but if it's a submission, it can only be done by email only, but any kind of feedback or anything you do by email, Facebook, and Twitter, so keep that in mind. So, again, email address for our show, itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And as always, you can find us on Facebook. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it or once you find it, so you can interact with us and all that good stuff. So yeah. Again, when it comes to award stuff, you can submit things by email, but again, feedback can be done by email or Facebook or Twitter. So keep that in mind. We encourage you to follow us on social media so you can interact with us and get the latest information about the show and all that good stuff. Any delays, postponements, or anything like that. If we encourage you to do that, so you can get that information that's accessible to you. So make sure, again, you follow us on Twitter at itspotlight411. Use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything people got on our show. And again, on Facebook, search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and make sure you like our fan page so you can interact with us and that much more. So make sure you follow us on social media so you can keep up with everything that goes on with our show. If you miss an episode or want to check out an episode again or whatever the case may be, you can check us out in one or two ways. You can either stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. You'll be taken to our show page on both sites, where you'll have access to every episode we've ever produced since our move to Google Plus and YouTube in mid-October 2015. So every episode from mid-October 2015 all up to tonight's episode, every episode we've ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube is available for you to stream anytime you want on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411, and you can stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. If that's not your thing, maybe you prefer to listen to us on the go, just listen to us in general, maybe instant older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Search In the Spotlight 411 on those sites. You'll be taken to our show pages on both sites. We will have access to every episode we've ever produced in the nearly 8 years been doing the show. So every episode from original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010 to January 2011. All of our talk show episodes from January 2011 all up to mid-October 2015. And all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all up to tonight's current episode, all transferred to audio format for your convenience. Every episode we've ever done in audio format for your convenience. You can listen to them anytime you want. Maybe miss an episode. And you want to catch up, maybe missed a part of an episode. If you're a long-time fan, want to check an episode from way back when again, or check out a recent episode because you missed it. And that applies to you. You can check us out anytime you want on Podbean and iTunes. To search In the Spotlight for us. Google Plus YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, then Google Plus YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Your way to skip with the show and look back at classic episodes. To search In the Spotlight 411. Again, to search In the Spotlight 411. Again, no Mike tonight. We haven't had him all the summer, but we continue to shout out to him. Hope everything's going well for him. So wish him luck. Shout out to him for tonight. Hopefully he'll be back with us soon. Maybe he'll be back next week. We'll see. I want to thank myself for another great show. Pat myself on the back. Thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. So to be watching, listening to this video. Thank you to you as well. Sorry I was a little all over the place tonight. I was trying to hurry up at times, and I kind of stuttered and stopped and got real I meandered a lot tonight. There was a lot to do, and we were starting off late, and everything with the awards being postponed, the nomination postpones, and everything was kind of threw me off. But we may do. Again, so apologies for the nominations being postponed a week. We will announce the nominations for this year's TV Awards next Tuesday. We're also going to be the categories for the live voted awards, so you can all, those of you that haven't participated in the awards process, you can get involved now. By helping us to decide the live voted award nominations. We'll let you know how you can do that next Tuesday, so you can get involved in that as well. And of course, we'll have to preview SummerSlam and talk some sports, probably mostly baseball, if anything. So we'll have to do all that next week. As of right now, we're only going to do one show, and that'll be on Tuesday, a week from tonight, on August the 14th. If something changes, I'll let you know next Tuesday, because there won't be a show anywhere next Tuesday. So I'll let you know next Tuesday if anything changes. So until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your night, a great week. A great rest of your week, a great weekend, a great start to your week next week. We'll see you back here 1 week from tonight for our next show, next Tuesday, August the 14th, broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll announce the TV award nominations. We'll let you all know how you can help with the live voted award nominations. We'll talk sports. We'll talk SummerSlam, all that. Next Tuesday, big show. Don't miss it. 1 week from tonight, August the 14th, 9 o'clock from Eastern Time. Until then, have a good night, everybody.